Do you feel overwhelmed by all the expert advice on improving your relationship? Many so-called experts offer one-sided solutions that force you to choose between your own well-being and your relationship. But it doesn't have to be that way. Imagine a marriage where you can truly advocate for yourself while also being attentive to your partner's needs. It's not only possible, but practical. To help you achieve this balance, I've created a free guide, 5 Skills for an Intimate Collaborative Marriage. In this guide, you'll discover 5 actionable tools to strengthen your relationship without sacrificing your well-being or neglecting your partner. Ready to transform your relationship? Click the link in the show notes to grab your free copy of 5 Skills for an Intimate Collaborative Marriage and start building a more balanced, fulfilling partnership today. I've really had a hard time figuring out what to record for this episode today. I've had a lot of different things on my mind, and I know that this is the last episode that I'm recording before I go on a little bit of a break. And I've just been kind of waffling between, doing something really inspirational for the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, trying to offer you some sort of a tool or a framework or something to reflect on the year or make goals for the new year. And I just haven't really thought of anything. And the other thing that I've been just following in the news, there have been kind of 3 kind of attention-catching stories, at least for me and for the content that I follow, that have really been on my mind. The first thing that came up, and I shared a little bit about it on Instagram. I haven't really shared all of my ongoing thoughts on Instagram as this story has developed, but it's the contention, the conflict between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, as some of these sexual harassment and retaliation claims have come forth. That's gotten my attention. I haven't really talked much about my experience being in a toxic workplace. But that story kind of hit home just based on some of the things that I've experienced in the workplace and some of the backlash that I have received from speaking up about those experiences in my workplace, and also just speaking up in general as a woman who is against male domination and is against women being treated the way that they are often in the workplace and in our society. So that's been on my mind a lot. I've been following that a lot. Of course, I don't know exactly what happened, but I am not surprised to see how things have unfolded and to see how Blake Lively has been villainized and all of the assumptions that are made, like, why didn't you speak up? Why did you continue with the movie? All of those things. And I just want to speak as a woman who has been in a similar situation. It is very costly to speak up. And I'm really grateful that she did. And I acknowledge that she has the resources and support that many women do not have. And that's one of the reasons why she probably was able to speak up. But I'm grateful that she did. Because these conversations are important, and it's important to take some of these conversations out of the darkness of, HR complaints and behind closed doors, non-disclosure agreements and all of that, and really talk about what is happening when someone like Justin Baldoni, who claims to be an ally of women, turns out to probably not be who he says he is. The other story that I've kind of been paying attention to is some legal proceedings between Donald Trump and one of the many women who have accused him of sexual assault, and that case was overturned. And I just have briefly done a little bit of reading on that, not nearly as much as the Blake and Justin story, but of course, that's concerning because this man is our president, and that is very concerning to me. But it's also refreshing to see that these things are being talked about more openly. And then there's the other story, and I cannot remember the woman's name, but the woman in France who brought up a case against her husband for drugging her and allowing many men to come and violate her. And these are just common, everyday men who have the opportunity, who were given the opportunity to do something utterly disgusting and despicable, and they did it. And they're being called out for it. And it's really sad to me. But again, I'm really glad that we're having these conversations in a more public way. It's been hard for me to have these conversations in a more private way, though, with my friends and family. I honestly have not had these conversations with people who I think might disagree with me, and I think it's because it's so uncomfortable. So it's just an interesting dynamic. And I actually started reading this book called The Will to Change: Men, Masculinity, and Love by Bell Hooks. And this was a book that was recommended to me as part of my curriculum in my RLT training. And in the very first, preface and chapters and first chapter, I'm just in the first chapter right now, Bell Hooks talks about how hard it is to talk about how we feel about men and how we want to feel loved by men, but we often don't. We learn to kind of pretend that any sort of positive attention that we get from men is love, but it's not. So I'm just reading this and I'm thinking about it. And the thing that really struck me, and the thing that is kind of my intention and my aspiration moving forward with what I share in the future on this podcast, and what I really help my clients grapple with and hope to accomplish in my work, is how do we reconcile this longing for more intimate, meaningful, authentic relationships with the harms of patriarchy? And this phrase from this book really struck me. From the book, again, The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. The unhappiness of men in relationships, the grief men feel about the failure of love, often goes unnoticed in our society, precisely because the patriarchal culture really does not care if men are unhappy. And I think that's really true. We care if men are successful, we care if men are powerful, we care if men are wealthy, but we don't care if they're happy. And I don't think that men have really been given the opportunity in our patriarchal culture to think about what really makes them happy, because they're chasing patriarchal forms of success: money, power, dominance, career accomplishments, professional accolades, but not love, to really be in a meaningful, loving relationship. And that's kind of the goal of Respected and Connected from that male perspective. When people talk about relationships issues in most circles, someone will chime in and say, well, men's greatest desire in a relationship is to be respected, and women's greatest desire is to feel emotionally safe or to feel loved and cherished. And I think the only reason why that is true is because we haven't been given a more expansive vision of what a loving relationship really looks like between two equals, whether it be a man and a woman, or two men, or two women, or even a platonic relationship between two equals that really is loving and intimate. We don't have a vision of what that looks like. So instead, we kind of settle into these dynamics where we're managing each other, we're controlling each other, often in covert ways, and we're calling that love. And so I don't have any great framework for you guys today. I don't have any great advice for you on how to kind of wrap up 2024 and start fresh in 2025. But I want to share this commitment and aspiration with you of what's going to be happening within the respected and connected community, whether you work with me one-on-one as a coach, or you enroll in a course or a program or a community, is I'm not giving up on men, and I'm not giving up on creating intimate, equitable relationships. So if that's what you're looking for, you're totally in the right place. I hope that you will keep in touch. I am planning to come back, hopefully in just a few months. If you want to keep in touch in the meantime, connect with me on Instagram. I'll link in the show notes to my Instagram profile, which is respected_and_connected. If you're not on my email list, join that as well, because I do think we are going to be part of this. Whatever's on the forefront, we are going to be part of taking that anger and that rage that we've felt for so long about being the victims of male dominance and creating something that works better for men and women. This is another thing from this book I'm reading that really is helping me to set the tone for the future. Well, there's two kind of things. So this is from Bell Hooks. Within the early writings of radical feminism, anger, rage, and even hatred of men was voiced. Yet there was no meaningful attempt to offer ways to resolve these feelings, to imagine a culture of reconciliation where women and men might meet and find common ground. So that's my real aspiration for the year, is to help women and men meet on equitable ground and find common ground and create a common goals and common visions for their relationships. And then there's just one other thing that I've thought, there's so much rhetoric around feminism and just that we have no need for men. And I think if we really had accepted that, and if we really had accepted that men were totally hopeless and unnecessary, we wouldn't still be trying to change the system. But I think it's that underlying wish that we really all have to include men in our vision for the future, that we can't give up on men. And we just have to continue inviting them into our vision for more equitable, loving relationships. So that's what I have. It's nothing flashy or fancy. I don't have a magic solution for all of this, but I just want to encourage you all to keep working at it and keep hoping for it. Thanks so much for listening to the Respected and Connected podcast. It means the world to me that you're here and that you value strong, healthy relationships. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast and you know that it can help others, please take the time to rate, review, and share the podcast so that we can spread this message and reach more people like you who are looking for help to create more intimacy and collaboration in their most important relationships. If you found value in what you heard today and you're ready for something more, click the link in the show notes to access more programs and resources to help you on your journey of creating meaningful, satisfying relationships.